Everything surrounding this Patriots team right now points to a Super Bowl moment that feels both familiar and completely new at the same time. Because what we're seeing heading into Super Bowl 60 against the Seahawks is a group that understands exactly why it's here and what is at stake. This isn't noise, hype, or empty confidence. It's built on details, health, matchups, and the way this roster has navigated the postseason. When you dig into what's actually happening behind the scenes this week, especially through media availability and the final injury reports, you start to understand why there's a quiet belief inside the locker room that this game is going to be decided by execution, not emotion. Let's start with the most immediate concern for any fan heading into a Super Bowl, who is healthy enough to truly impact the game. On Thursday's injury report, the Patriots were in a much steadier position than some expected earlier in the week. Robert Spillane was limited on Wednesday, didn't practice, and that naturally raised alarms given how critical he is to the middle of this defense. But by Thursday, he was back in a limited capacity, and everything coming out of the building points toward him playing. Spillane himself made it clear this was always part of the recovery plan, a calculated decision to rest and then ramp back up. Watching him walk into media availability, there was no limp, no visible hesitation. That matters, because when Spillane is off the field, the Patriots' missed tackle rate nearly doubles. His presence stabilizes everything, especially against a Seahawks offense that wants to stay balanced and physical. Harold Landry is the more complicated situation. He has been dealing with a knee injury for months, missed time both in the regular season and the postseason. And while he practiced earlier in the week, the question isn't simply whether he plays, it's whether he can be effective. Landry entered the postseason as the team's sack leader, and his ability to set the edge and win one-on matters in a game like this. The Patriots do have answers if he's limited. Kean White has stepped up in big moments, and Anfernee Jennings has had a real resurgence down the stretch, giving this defense flexibility. Still, Landry at full strength changes how Seattle has to protect on the offensive side. There's been no real concern about Drake Maye, despite all the speculation. He's addressed the shoulder questions multiple times and continues to insist he's fine. More importantly, his body language and confidence haven't changed. That's crucial, because the Patriots know this game could come down to how quickly he processes and gets the ball out. Through 3 postseason games, Maye has taken 15 sacks. And while some of that is on protection, some of it is the nature of facing elite defensive fronts. Seattle may not have one single edge rusher at the level of the very best in the league, but they rotate Bodies and come in waves, which stresses offensive lines over 4 quarters. This is where the trenches become the heartbeat of this matchup. The Seahawks defensive line is deep, aggressive, and well coached, and they're clearly excited about the challenge. At the same time, the Patriots' defensive front might be the most underrated unit still standing. Christian Barmore and Milton Williams have been dominant throughout the postseason. When Williams missed time earlier in the year, the defense noticeably regressed. With him on the field, the interior becomes suffocating. His postseason production, from pressures to tackles for loss, shows how disruptive he's been. Barmore complements that with power and consistency, collapsing pockets and forcing quarterbacks to speed up their decisions. Against a Seahawks offense that wants to establish the run, this interior matchup could dictate everything. One of the most talked about individual battles is on the outside, and it's impossible to ignore. Jackson Smith-Njigba has been phenomenal this season, producing over 1,000 yards, more than 100 receptions, and carrying that momentum into the playoffs with massive performances. But Christian Gonzalez is playing at an elite level that demands respect. When quarterbacks target him, the completion percentage is among the lowest in football. There's history here too. In their previous meeting, Smith-Njigba was productive overall, but when Gonzalez was the primary defender, the results favored New England. The Patriots' heavy use of zone means this won't be a pure man-to-man duel on every snap, but every rep between these two will matter. Then there's the quarterback comparison, which might quietly decide Super Bowl 60. Sam Darnold has been efficient in the postseason, protecting the football and taking what defenses give him. Drake Maye, on the other hand, has seen his turnover numbers creep up compared to the regular season. He's been open about it. He knows it has to improve. What doesn't always get enough attention is how dangerous he is with his legs. Defenses have admitted they underestimated his athleticism, and that element could surface in critical moments. Still, this game feels like it will hinge on turnovers. Both defenses thrive on pressure, and whichever quarterback blinks first may swing the outcome. All of this builds toward a Super Bowl that feels destined to be tight, physical, and decided late. The Patriots believe they're here because they've stayed true to their identity, leaned on their defense, and trusted a young quarterback to grow under pressure. As a fan watching this unfold, when you look at the injuries, the matchups, and the mindset of this team, do you believe the Patriots' defense and discipline will be the difference in Super Bowl 60? Or do you think the Seahawks have the edge where it matters most? The deeper you go into this matchup, the more it becomes clear that Super Bowl 60 is less about star power and more about which team can stay composed when everything tightens in the fourth quarter. From the Patriots' perspective, this game feels like it's being shaped by lessons learned throughout the postseason, especially in moments where things didn't go perfectly. That's important because this roster has already been tested in ways that don't always show up in box scores. One of the underlying storylines that keeps coming back is how much trust this coaching staff has in its process. There's been no panic, no dramatic shifts in identity leading into the biggest game of the season. The Patriots have leaned into what got them here. Defensively, that means discipline, communication, and forcing offenses to earn everything. Offensively, it means understanding limitations, protecting Drake Maye as much as possible, and being smart about situational football. That approach shows up most clearly when you look at how New England is expected to handle Seattle's pressure packages. Seattle's defensive line thrives on disruption, but the Patriots are fully aware of that. Josh McDaniels' experience matters here more than ever. This is his 10th Super Bowl appearance, and that's not a throwaway detail. He understands how quickly a game like this can spiral if a young quarterback is left holding the ball too long. Expect quick throws, designed reads, and a willingness to take short gains if it means staying ahead of the chains. The goal isn't to dominate early with explosive plays, but to survive the early storm and force Seattle to adjust. That patience also ties directly into the turnover conversation, which keeps circling back as the most important factor in this game. In the playoffs, the Patriots' defense has proven it can create chaos even when the offense isn't firing on all cylinders. Against Houston, multiple takeaways kept the game within reach, even when the margin was slim deep into the third quarter. That ability to hang around, to wait for the moment when an opponent makes a mistake, has defined this run. It's why the Patriots never look rattled, even when momentum swings against them. For Drake Maye, this Super Bowl represents another step in his development, not just a culmination. He's been candid about learning to bounce back from negative plays, whether it's a pick six or a drive that stalls at midfield. That mindset is critical on a stage like this. There will be moments where Seattle wins a rep, where pressure gets home, where the crowd noise and the magnitude of the moment collide. What matters is what happens on the next snap. The Patriots believe Maye has grown into someone who wants the ball in those moments, who doesn't shy away from responsibility. On the other side, Sam Darnold's postseason has been defined by restraint. He hasn't tried to be a hero, he's protected the football, accepted sacks when necessary, and trusted his defense. That makes this quarterback matchup fascinating because it's not about who throws for more yards, it's about who avoids the mistake that flips field position late. Both defenses are built to capitalize on even a single lapse in judgment. In the trenches, the physicality is only going to intensify as the game wears on. The Patriots' defensive tackles have been relentless, and Seattle's offensive line knows it. There's mutual respect there, but also an understanding that this battle could decide everything. If New England can force Seattle's run game to the edges and make things one-dimensional, it plays directly into their hands. Conversely, if Seattle can establish balance and keep the Patriots' front from pinning its ears back, it changes the math entirely. What makes this Super Bowl feel different for Patriots fans is the sense that this team isn't chasing the past. There's no talk of legacy or comparisons driving the narrative inside the locker room. It's about this group, this moment, and proving that the path they're on is real. The confidence isn't loud, but it's consistent. You hear it in how players talk about preparation, about trusting teammates, about embracing the challenge instead of fearing it. As kickoff approaches, everything points toward a game that will be decided by inches, by discipline, and by who handles pressure better when the margin for error disappears. That's why so many inside the building believe this won't be a blowout, but a chess match that comes down to the final possessions. What hasn't been talked about enough from a Patriots perspective is how mentally hardened this group has become over the course of the postseason. There's a difference between believing you belong and proving it under pressure, and this team has repeatedly chosen the second path. Every close game, every late defensive stand, every response after a mistake has added another layer of confidence that doesn't rely on hype. That matters in a Super Bowl environment where emotions can swing wildly from one drive to the next. You can see it in the way the defense communicates pre-snap. There's no panic when offenses shift or motion late. The Patriots have been disciplined about alignment, about leverage, about trusting help. Against a Seahawks offense that wants to create confusion and force mismatches, that discipline becomes a weapon. Seattle will test the edges, test the flats, and try to create hesitation. New England's answer has consistently been patience, rallying to the ball, and forcing second-down-long situations that tilt the game toward the pass rush. Special teams quietly loom as another potential swing factor. In games like this, Field position is everything. The Patriots have been strong situationally, understanding when to be aggressive and when to take the points. That maturity shows up late in halves, where stealing 3 points or pinning an opponent deep can feel just as impactful as a touchdown. In a matchup where both defenses are capable of tightening inside the red zone, those moments could define the final score. Offensively, there's also an appreciation for how adaptable this Patriots unit has been. When something hasn't worked early, adjustments have come quickly. Protection schemes change, route concepts evolve, and the offense doesn't stubbornly force what isn't there. That adaptability gives them a chance even against a defense that prides itself on physicality and depth. If Seattle overcommits to pressure, the Patriots are prepared to counter with timing routes and quick decisions. If coverage tightens, Drake Maye's ability to extend plays becomes a factor, even if it's just enough to move the chains. What stands out most, though, is the way players talk about responsibility. There's no sense of someone else needing to be the hero. It's about doing your job on a single snap and trusting that the next man will do the same on the next one. That mindset is often what separates teams that reach the Super Bowl from teams that win it. The Patriots aren't approaching this as a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. They're approaching it as the next challenge in a process they believe in. As the game approaches, the picture becomes clearer. This is going to be about who protects the football, who controls the line of scrimmage late, and who stays mentally sharp when fatigue sets in. The Patriots believe their path has prepared them for exactly that type of battle. Whether that belief turns into another championship moment will come down to execution when it matters most. As you zoom out and look at this matchup one more time, it becomes harder to ignore how thin the margin really is. This doesn't feel like a Super Bowl where one side overwhelms the other early. It feels like a game where both teams spend 4 quarters trying to force just one crack, one missed assignment, one late throw, one protection breakdown. From the Patriots' point of view, that's exactly the type of environment they want, because it minimizes chaos and rewards preparation. There's a strong sense that New England is comfortable playing uncomfortable football. Long drives that eat clock, defensive series that don't always end in turnovers but slowly wear an opponent down, offenses being forced to convert 3rd and long over and over again. This Patriots team has shown it doesn't need fireworks to stay in control. It needs discipline, communication, and the ability to reset after every snap. That approach frustrates opponents because it leaves no easy answers. Another layer that matters is leadership, not just from coaches, but from players who have taken ownership of moments. You can hear it in how veterans talk about younger players and how younger players talk about responsibility. There's no shrinking away from the spotlight. Instead, there's an acceptance that mistakes might happen, but panic cannot. That mindset often defines championship teams more than any single matchup on paper. Seattle brings its own confidence, and rightly so. They've been efficient, balanced, and opportunistic throughout the postseason. But the Patriots believe they've seen every style of challenge already. They've faced elite pass rushers, they've faced quarterbacks who protect the ball, they've faced games where one play could swing momentum. Each time, they've survived by staying true to their identity instead of chasing perfection. As this